This is Mark Bell from supertraining.tv, Super Training Gym, the strongest gym in the West, kicking more knowledge to you, dropping knowledge bombs for the Power Project, brought to you by HowMuchYouBench.net, the Slingshot, and the strongest magazine on the planet, thepowermagazine.com. We got a guy out there who says that he's not always watching the YouTubes, but when he is watching the YouTubes, he's watching supertraining.tv. He's watching this YouTube channel, and we appreciate that, especially coming from a strong man named Clint Darden. I don't know about you, but I personally never heard of him before either. Anyway, let's get back to the matter at hand. We got questions to answer here at the Power Project. Question number uno. I'll try to get to a few of them. We'll see. We'll see how many mind lapses I have in a 5 or 6 minute period here. First question is, how'd you come up with the name Super Training Gym? Did you just rip it off of Mel Siff and start naming your gym that? Yes, I did kind of just rip it off of Mel Siff, but realize this, Mel Siff was a genius. I went out to a seminar, training seminar, and saw Mel Siff speak in Las Vegas with my friend Bloody Jim Lawn, or Bloody Lawn Jim, or however you say his name. We went out there and got to see him speak. And he was a fantastic presenter. He presented some outstanding information that nobody could understand, but the guy was well ahead of his time. And I went up to purchase a book from him after lunch. I came back, and I think the book was about 50 or 60 bucks, Super Training. Look it up if you never heard of it before. It's an outstanding book, has some information that will definitely be over your head. But if you can decipher even a little bit of it, you'll be that much further ahead of the game. Anyway, long story short is I went to buy it, and I pulled out some crumpled up bills from my pocket and didn't have enough. Mel kind of grabbed me by the shoulder a little bit and said, "Hey, kid, don't worry about it. Just keep the book." So I kept the book, and the book was very inspiring to me. And when I decided to start my gym, I already knew what it was going to be called. I already knew that we were going to call it Super Training after the great late Mel Siff, who later he passed on about just a few months after that seminar, I believe. Can't remember the exact timing of everything now, but that's kind of the way it went down, and that's why my gym is named Super Training Gym. So I didn't just rip it off of some other gym. I ripped it off of somebody's book, and hopefully that pays some homage to Mel Siff, and hopefully that can help carry his name on, because I know when you look up Super Training, you Google it, that a lot of my stuff comes up, but so does a lot of his. So please check out some of the information from Mel Siff. Got a question from a lifter who lifts raw. He's wondering if he should invest in some powerlifting gear, or if he should just, try some reverse band work here and there. I would first suggest starting with some reverse band work, or purchasing a product like my invention, the Slingshot. Of course, I'm always going to drive you towards that. But reverse, if you have bands already and don't want to spend any more money, don't spend any more money. Just do some reverse bands. Simple enough concept. The one thing I would urge against is that you're not setting the bands up in such a way that you're lifting astronomical numbers. Reverse band work, for those of you who don't know, is simply having the band assist you in the lift. The band is connected to the barbell, and the band is kind of guiding the weight upward. So the bands are hanging from a rack up here, and then around the barbell, and it's actually helping you lift the weight upward. It's assisting you. It's a band-assisted lift rather than lifting against the bands. The interesting part is it's lighter at the bottom and heavier at the top, which is the same thing that we often see when you're doing bands or chains. Anyway, any sort of accommodating resistance, whether it be slingshot, bands, chains, or reverse band, are all going to have a similar effect in the fact that the weights will be lighter at the bottom and they'll be heavier at the top. Reverse band deadlifting can be effective. We actually shot a video the other day with Brandon, old bird dog Lily. Wait, what is that on my back? I think that's Brandon trying to piggyback again off of me. Anyway, old bird dog and I, we shot a video talking about your butt shooting up in the case of the squat, in the case of the deadlift. Something like reverse band work for some repetitions, especially in the case of the deadlift, can allow you to kind of guide yourself through those bottom positions that sometimes get a little sticky, get a little hairy, and you can handle a little bit more weight. But again, make sure that the percentages up over your best. Don't exceed about 10% would be a good gauge, good guideline. So you do the math on that. I'm not going to bother trying to get into that. But anything that's up over 10%, you can start to say to yourself, okay, well, maybe I hooked the band up. You know, if your best deadlift is 500 and you pulled 650 from the floor, then you're going to have to kind of level with yourself and say, that was kind of an unrealistic lift. Next time I set those bands up, I'll set them up lower. Another thing you could do anytime you do reverse band work of any kind is to do sets of 5 or sets of 3, so that way, even though you're providing a lift that's going to help you overload and allow you to lift a heavier weight and make the lift easier, you can now increase the intensity of the lift a little bit simply by adding some repetitions in. The interesting thing about accommodating resistance is that it's not very accommodating at all, except for in the case of the reverse band, and in the case of the slingshot as well. A little bit of a tongue twister there. So we got another question. Somebody asked me why I decided to lift as a geared power lifter. Powerlifting gear, kind of a long story. I started powerlifting when I was very young, but powerlifting gear was just part of the sport. There really wasn't a lot of talk about raw. There really wasn't raw. Some guys lifted without equipment, but nobody else really talked about it a whole lot. Back when I first started, I lifted in the USAPL before it was even the USAPL. Before the USAPL was even born, I lifted in a federation called the ADFPA. There's the ADFPA, the USPF, and I believe there was some lifting going on in the in some other federation I can't quite think of at the moment. Or maybe like AAU or something like that. I think they had some powerlifting. But that was pretty much it. I mean, it really was USPF by itself for years and years, and then the ADFPA, and then you had some other federations mingle around in there, and then people got pissed off about who's taking drugs, who's not taking drugs, who's wearing what and why, and it just became an explosion of federations kind of popping up all over the place. But basically the reason why I wear powerlifting gear is because that's the way that I started. That's the way that I was taught. It was never like, hey, you know, throw this on, you're going to lift 50 more pounds. It was like, okay, we do this set, this set, this set without the powerlifting gear, and then we do this set, and this set with the powerlifting gear. There really was no, there's no question about it. It was just part of the training routine, as it used to be in the old days. Back when they had a magazine called Muscle and Power, they would actually just, when they would write out training protocols, they would say, you know, 5 sets of 5 routine, followed by X, Y, Z, and then when you get home from your training routine, make sure you're eating a lot of protein. Eat some steak, eat some milk, this, that, the other thing. They might suggest something like vitamin C, and then the last suggestion would be like 10 milligrams of D-ball or 20 milligrams of D-ball. I swear to God, you can look it up. You could probably Google it and find some information on some of that stuff. But it was just part of the protocol. It wasn't anything that was frowned upon. Powerlifting gear and steroids and things like that. They were just kind of part of the routine. And nowadays, everyone's got a stick up their ass about these kinds of things. So that's the way I was brought into the sport, and I don't know exactly my next move, my next chess piece, my next chess move, so to speak. But I will probably at some point go back to single ply powerlifting. I will at some point probably do a raw powerlifting meet, because as I get older and older and more grizzled and more disgusting, I'm going to have to think of different ways to reinvent myself, kind of like Madonna. Kind of like Metallica. You got to keep the challenges going. I'm not always going to be able to go full blast, full bore, 1000% in multiply gear. So there'll be a point where the wheels will fall off, and I'll have to move on and try something different. So that's why I selected to wear powerlifting gear. It's just part of the protocol back in the day. And I got nothing else to say, I don't think. Other than I do think that Brandon Lilly was actually physically born with that disgusting beard that's on his face. And that is it from supertraining.tv. Later.